There is a truth that is both heartbreaking and haunting. Many species are only truly valued by humans after they have completely vanished from our planet. While they are still here, most of us pass them by without notice, seeing them as just another ordinary part of the world. But when they are gone, they leave behind a void that cannot be filled, and only then do we realize the worth of what we have lost. A final photograph of an animal species often becomes a tragic symbol. It is like a door closing, marking the moment we can never return to. Looking at that image, we feel a deep sense of loss, as if we are witnessing the last line of a chapter in the long book of life. And yet, what many people don't realize is that the final photograph is not always taken at the moment of extinction. Many species have still been spotted by humans long after that last image was captured. And it is these final sightings that truly move us. Because they are not just still images, but living moments. The last time humans and that species existed together before everything became only a memory. These last encounters are often not preserved through a camera lens, but through the words of the few lucky witnesses who happened to be there. Number 1. The Barbary Lion. In the past, when speaking of the ultimate symbol of power and majesty in Africa, one could hardly overlook the Barbary lion, a fearsome predator that once ruled the mountains and deserts of the Maghreb, stretching from the banks of the Nile in Egypt to the Atlas forests of Morocco. This species was also known by several other names, including the North African lion and the Egyptian lion. Since the days of ancient Rome, it had been closely tied to the image of authority and conquest. Historical accounts describe them being kept in Roman arenas, where their roars echoed through the crowds during deadly contests. The Barbary lion is believed to have been the largest lion species ever to exist in modern history. An adult male could measure more than 3 meters in length from head to tail and weigh up to 270 kilograms. Its mane was long, flowing over the shoulders, and bore unusually deep colors, sometimes black, bluish-gray, or tinged with burnt gold. This distinctive mane set it apart entirely from the African lions we know today. Modern genetic research shows that the Barbary lion belonged to a separate lineage, having split from African lion populations hundreds of thousands of years ago, with origins tracing back to the Middle East. The species emerged roughly 100,000 years ago and endured for tens of millennia. But its tragic turning point began in the 19th century, when modern firearms appeared and colonial authorities began offering bounties for every lion killed. In a short time, the Barbary lion population was slaughtered at a horrifying rate. By the late 1890s, less than 30 years after the species was first described scientifically, its numbers had dropped to alarming levels, and spotting a Barbary lion in the wild became a rare event. Final records from the wild often described solitary individuals rather than family groups, an unmistakable sign that extinction was drawing near. In 1925, the last known photograph of a wild Barbary lion was taken, yet even as their numbers hovered at the brink, the hunting continued. The end came in 1942, when the last known wild Barbary lion in Morocco was shot by a French hunter in the high Atlas Mountains. Many researchers regard this as the moment the species vanished forever from the wild. But the story did not end there. More than a decade later, in 1956, a group of bus passengers near the town of Sétif in Algeria reported seeing a large lion standing not far from them. They said the lion silently observed the bus before quietly turning away and disappearing into a nearby forest. Tragically, that same forest was destroyed not long after during the Algerian War of Independence, and it is believed that the lion likely perished there as well. This sighting is considered the last time a Barbary lion was seen in the wild. Today, an estimated 80 to 100 lions thought to be descendants of the Barbary lion survive in zoos and wildlife reserves. However, there is no definitive proof that they are purebred, as there are no longer any wild specimens for DNA comparison. Still, many scientists hold out hope that with genetic research and selective breeding, one day the truest image of the Barbary lion might be restored. But for the wild landscapes of North Africa, the roar of this magnificent predator has fallen silent forever. Number 2. The dodo. Amid the deep blue waters of the Indian Ocean, more than 800 kilometers east of Madagascar, lies the volcanic island of Mauritius. Once a paradise for unique wildlife, it was home to one of the most famous extinct species in history, the dodo bird, a creature that has become a global symbol of extinction. The dodo was a flightless bird belonging to the Columbidae family, the same family as pigeons and doves. It had a plump, rounded body, stood about 1 meter tall, and weighed between 15 and 20 kilograms. Its small wings were suited only for balance while running, and its grayish-brown plumage, tinged with blue, allowed it to blend into the tropical forest. The dodo's strong, curved beak enabled it to eat a wide variety of foods, from fallen fruit and roots to mollusks or small crabs found along stream banks. Because Mauritius had no large land predators, the dodo evolved without the need for flight or heightened wariness. As a result, when humans first set foot on the island in 1598, the birds had no fear of them whatsoever. Dutch sailors, the first to record the species, described them as gentle, slow, and easy to catch, though their beaks were strong enough to deliver a painful bite if provoked. At first, the dodo was merely a convenient food source for merchant fleets, but the true tragedy began when humans brought invasive species such as dogs, cats, and monkeys. These newcomers ravaged the dodo's ground nests, devouring both eggs and chicks. At the same time, the island's virgin forests were cut down to make way for settlements and sugar plantations, drastically shrinking the bird's habitat. Some modern studies suggest that during the 17th century, Mauritius also endured flash floods and tropical cyclones, further pushing the species toward extinction. By the mid-1600s, dodos had become rare. The last confirmed sighting occurred in 1662, when a group of stranded sailors on the island reported capturing one. They claimed the bird let out a loud call as it was seized, a cry that drew several others near, apparently trying to protect their companion. Tragically, all were captured and killed soon afterward. Some unverified accounts hint that the species may have lingered longer. The governor of Mauritius once claimed he hunted dodos as late as 1688, nearly 3 decades after their supposed extinction. However, there is no physical evidence to support this, and from that point on, the dodo vanished entirely from the natural world. Today, the dodo is more than just an extinct bird. It has become a universal cultural icon, appearing in literature and serving as a focal point in conservation debates. Its image stands as a lasting reminder that human neglect and greed can erase a species in mere decades, a blink in evolutionary time, yet long enough to permanently alter the balance of nature. Number 3. Steller's sea cow. In the summer of 1741, German naturalist Georg Wilhelm Steller, traveling with the Danish explorer Vitus Bering's expedition, encountered a massive marine creature entirely unknown to science. When their ship became stranded near the Commander Islands in the Bering Sea, a frigid stretch of water between Alaska and Russia, Steller carefully observed and described the animal, later naming it Steller's sea cow. This sea cow was the largest member of the Dugongidae family, distantly related to today's dugongs and manatees. An adult could grow up to 9 meters long and weigh more than 10 tons, several times larger than its living relatives. Its thick, wrinkled hide, resembling the bark of an oak tree, helped it withstand the brutal cold of northern waters. Its large, split upper lip allowed it to tear away great swaths of giant kelp, the mainstay of its diet, from the shallow coastal reefs. Despite its immense size, the Steller's sea cow's temperament was entirely gentle. They were slow-moving, lived in small groups of just a few individuals, and often fed near the surface. Steller recorded that they made soft huffing or whistling sounds to communicate, and sometimes displayed curiosity toward humans, even swimming up to boats for a closer look. When Steller first encountered them, their population was already small, estimated at only about 2,000 individuals living around the Commander Islands. Part of the decline was due to the loss of much of their habitat during the last ice age, but the true tragedy began once news of their existence spread. With slow movement, inability to dive deeply, and virtually no defensive reflexes, the Steller's sea cow became an easy target for sailors, fur traders, and seal hunters. Their meat was described as sweet and rich and could be preserved for long voyages, while their fat was prized for cooking and oil lamps. Just a day after Stellar documented the species, members of Bering's crew killed and butchered one. From that point forward, hunting became frequent and virtually unchecked. The result was catastrophic. Only 27 years after being formally recorded by science, the giant sea cow was gone forever. The last officially confirmed sighting occurred in 1768, when a group of hunters reported spotting a solitary individual swimming alongside their boat before quietly changing course and disappearing into the cold, misty waters. Yet the story does not quite end there. Nearly 200 years later, in 1963, a Soviet whaling vessel reported seeing a group of 6 large animals, each measuring between 6 and 8 meters, feeding on kelp in the shallow waters off the Kamchatka Peninsula. The crew described the creatures as slow-moving and often surfacing, matching the descriptions of Stellar's sea cow, except for one difference: these animals occasionally dove beneath the surface, something earlier accounts had claimed the sea cow could not do. Though no photographs or specimens were ever obtained, this report remains, for many researchers, one of the most credible encounters since the species was believed to have vanished. Number 4. The Great Auk. In the cold, turbulent waters of the North Atlantic, there once lived a giant flightless seabird known as the Great Auk, a master diver and a true champion of the northern waves. Its range stretched from the coasts of Spain and Portugal, along the British Isles, and all the way to the waters of Canada. For centuries, the Great Auk was a familiar sight to sailors crossing the seas and to coastal communities, a living emblem of the rich northern fishing grounds. The Great Auk had a sturdy, well-built body, standing nearly 80 centimeters tall, with glossy black plumage on its back and pure white on its belly. Its small wings were useless for flight but perfectly adapted for swimming, allowing it to dive with remarkable speed and agility to hunt fish and squid. A member of the Alcidae family, it was closely related to puffins and murrays. Despite its superficial resemblance, it was not related to penguins. When not feeding offshore, great auks gathered on remote rocky islands to breed, forming noisy bird cities, where thousands of individuals would congregate. For centuries, great auks lived in near harmony with humans. Occasional hunting took place, but it had little impact on their numbers. All of that changed in the 18th century. In Europe, demand for soft feathers to stuff pillows and blankets soared, as did interest in their large eggs as a delicacy. With their slow, clumsy movements on land and complete inability to fly, great auks became the perfect target for hunters. Once peaceful breeding colonies quickly turned into brutal hunting grounds, where hundreds could be captured and killed in a single day. By the early 19th century, relentless hunting had pushed the species to the brink of extinction. The last significant population survived only on a rocky outcrop off the coast of Iceland known as Great Auk Rock, a natural fortress for the species. But in 1830, a volcanic eruption sank the island completely, forcing the surviving birds to relocate to the smaller Eldey Island, just 14 kilometers from shore. There, their numbers dwindled to only a few dozen. On June 3, 1844, the tragedy reached its end. 2 hunters, hired by a museum collector, landed on Eldey and killed the last known breeding pair of great auks, which were incubating their single egg. The egg was smashed in the process. According to accounts, the birds struggled but made no sound. A silent desperation in the middle of the open sea. This act officially erased the great auk from the wild. Yet the final chapter was not quite closed. On Christmas Day, 1852, 8 years after the killings on Eldey, ornithologist Henry Drummond was walking along the Newfoundland coast when he spotted a strange bird. With his experience, he was certain it was a great auk, likely the last lonely wanderer, still searching for a mate, unaware it was the final member of its kind. Drummond later recalled watching its silhouette grow smaller and smaller from the deck of his ship until it vanished forever beneath the waves. Today, the great auk exists only in museum specimens, old paintings, and the memories of those who once saw it. But the story of its disappearance continues to echo as a warning that even the most common and resilient of species can be wiped out by humans in the blink of an eye in history. These 4 stories are not just accounts of species that have vanished. They are reminders of the price humanity pays for its neglect and greed. If we fail to learn from the past, These memories will only grow longer, and the list of the disappeared will never grow shorter.